Yo, what's going on, everybody? Jay What If's back at it again with another video. So, I'm just gonna start this thing off by just saying this is what if Deku was born in America, and he is gonna have a quirk. And there's this special character in here that I added myself, and I mean, y'all are gonna see it. And I'm going to say this now. Again, the beginning is a little bit slice of life, so if you don't like that, then well, womp womp, get over it. But I'm gonna say this now. He does have a quirk, and I just want to say I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you all so much for the support. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started in What If Deku Was Born in America? So our story starts off in a third-person perspective, looking at a guy with brown hair and a girl with blonde hair, and they're like decently old. Like, I'm gonna say like mid 30s, so not old, but you guys know what I mean. And anyways, it just starts off and they're talking and they're laughing and cutting up, and eventually they end up leaving together, and they're just in an American bar just having a nice little view of a mountainscape and on the island that they're at. And they eventually go home together and they just talk, they chill on the couch, they hang out, watch a movie, and then we see the brown haired guy ask her on a full date, and she, of course, she says yeah. And then we see him go on another date, and another. And eventually, 3 years have passed with them going on dates every single night. Or not every single night, but every like Friday night. And we end up learning the woman's name. Her name is Amelia, and the guy's name is David. We're gonna say Amelia, no. What? Okay, she doesn't have a last name. We're just gonna say that because I don't feel like coming up with one off the top of my head. And then David Shield. And eventually, after those 3 years, he proposes, they get married, and we find out that Amelia is pregnant with twins. And they are ecstatic. They want these kids so bad, and they find out that it's going to be twins as well. And then we have a little bit of a time skip to when a young Izuku Shield and a Melissa Shield are born. They grow up together, they have fun, they make contraptions like any regular kid does. They just have fun, play with their imaginations and like that stuff. And we get scenes of Amelia and like David just like cuddled up, like watching them have fun in the backyard. And eventually, whenever they hit 2 years old, then Amelia is talking to David and tells him that she has to go back to Japan so that way she can continue her hero work. Because then we find out that she has an electricity type quirk where she can actually output electricity and like control the voltage on it, but she personally cannot take in electricity at all. She can only use her own bodies. So after this, she promises Izuku and Melissa that she'll return whenever they're 6 years old and have their quirks. But she ruffles their hairs and she leaves. And then she's talking to David and is like, whenever they turn 6, or whenever one of them or both of them unlock their quirk, then I would like you to contact me so that way I can return. And that way, like whenever they turn 10 years old, she has to go back to Japan so she can keep an eye on her company. And David says, of course, anything. And we find out, and she says, but if they inherit yours being quirkless, then I'm going to choose to stay in Japan until they're about 10, so that way I can keep on sending you guys money so I can help provide for your company and for my children. And David's like, of course. And eventually we get a time skip of Izuku at the age of 4 years old and Melissa at the age of 4 as well. And they're just playing with the toy on top of carpet, like wearing socks and cotton pajamas, because that's going to be important. I think, yeah, cotton, we'll say. Because I don't know what else, like, funnels electricity well, like static electricity, so I'm just going to say that. If I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me in the comments. And we see them playing with this like little robot toy, and Izuku's like, it's my turn, and he grabs it, and Melissa's like, okay, because they have a really good relationship for being twins and siblings. And for some reason, the robot dies. Like, it just stops working. They're like, And Melissa's like, did you turn it off? And he goes and he flips it on and off, and it's still not working. And he's like, maybe the battery's dead. So they go and they run to David, and they're like, Dad, can you please replace the battery in this? It stopped working. And he's like, what? I just replaced the battery last week. He puts a new one in there, and he hands it to Izuku, and it dies in front of his eyes again. And it's just like, maybe these batteries are bad. And Izuku's like, I'm sorry, Dad. And he hugs his leg, and he actually gets shocked from it. And David finds this a little bit weird, but he's like, maybe there's just static electricity from their clothes. So this goes on like 4 or 5 more times of him just killing toys and their batteries. And eventually, and like him being shocked, and he's like, whoa, because it's just like, it feels just like static shock. And David is finally like, okay, we need to take you to the quirk doctor. So David, he takes Izuku to the quirk doctor, and they run their tests, and they find out that he has an electricity quirk. However, he can not only just expel electricity and be able to control it, he also has the ability to manipulate its shape and to keep it held into his body, so that way he can store it for a later use or expel it into one large burst. And the doctor then proceeds to say, but if he is holding in too much electricity for him to be able to handle, then he will actually burst, and it will be cataclysmic, and it could possibly nuke a small town. Anyways, so then David is just like, whoa, and the doctor's like, yeah, so just be very wary of like giving him way too many electronic toys and him just killing the batteries and over again, because he could reach his limit. And it's a good thing that you guys didn't wait any longer at all, because he was storing it up, and he was storing it up fast. And David is just like, wow, I should have saw this coming. And he immediately calls Amelia, and Amelia's like, yeah, what is it? Did one of the kids unlock their quirk already? I didn't unlock mine till 6, so maybe they're just early bloomers. And David is like, yeah, Izuku. And she's like, wait, what? He looks nothing like me, except for maybe the blonde tips and the blue eyes, but even then. And David is like, yeah, I know, it's so bizarre, but hey. And she's like, what about Melissa? I mean, she looks the most like me. And he's like, yeah, no dice. And we get a scene of Melissa being told that she's quirkless, and that all she has to be able to rely on is her like raw intellect. After this, Melissa, she gets really down on herself, and Izuku goes in there and he's like, Melissa, I got my quirk. And Melissa's like, oh, that's so good. And she's just like, yeah, no, I'm quirkless. And Izuku in this moment feels super bad, and he's like, well, how about we go play outside? Maybe I can make you feel better and cheer you up. And Melissa's like, okay. And she immediately perks up, and they go outside and they play. And over the course of the next year, before Amelia can return and be able to train Izuku, they actually go outside and they play like almost every day. And of course, coming inside and making contraptions and just having fun doing like nerdy kid stuff. So and he never flaunts his quirk in front of her, so he doesn't really get a chance to like show off, and he's actually fairly humble about his abilities. And eventually Amelia comes back whenever they're both 6 years old, and she was straight up about to pull it up in an endeavor, bro. He was about to say Izuku, you come in with me and you train him. Melissa, you can go do whatever you want. And Izuku like put his foot down, and he was like, nah, I'm not gonna train without her. Like, she's just as capable as me. And Amelia's like, oh, okay. Like, it doesn't mind me, but if she falls behind, then I'm not waiting for her. And Melissa and Izuku are like, okay. Like, Melissa obviously feeling bad that her mom doesn't want her to like train with him. And Amelia, realistically, the reason why she was doing this is because that's her only daughter. Like, she doesn't want her only daughter who's quirkless to have to be able to see the battlefield and be able to be put in danger for like really no reward. And that's why she didn't want to train him like Melissa, so that way she didn't get a head chock full of ideas that she could be a hero and go through all of this stuff without having a quirk. And over the course of a year with them training, we see like little flashbacks of Izuku like training with his quirk, and Amelia, what she's doing is she's just like pumping electricity at him, like trying to make him be able to go past his limit with being able to control like amps and voltage and being able to hold that in his body, because that's something that she's not able to do. So she's trying to make it like better than her. And while she does that, she's also training Melissa and Izuku how to fight hand to hand, and like basically just like karate, taekwondo, Muay Thai, capoeira, which is like Melissa actually takes a really attuned to, and she really likes capoeira, and she also like really enjoys parkour and using her tech and her brain. She's really good at it, so she actually ends up surpassing Izuku in the sense of like hand-to-hand combat, because you also have to think, she not only like Izuku had to train his electricity and he had to train hand-to-hand, but he also was working on his physical body as well. So there wasn't much time for Izuku to spend at one time, like one thing at one time, you know what I'm saying? So after this, they're about 7, yeah, and he can hold like a good amount of voltage now. I'll save until like around, I'll save it for whenever the training ends. And anyway, so after he learns how to hold it in his body, he learns how to like control that and be able to expel it at different voltage amounts. And his mom is very impressed, because it's like it only took him a year, whereas it took her like 5 to be able to control the amount of voltage that she can input and output. Output. Which Izuku can also, what he can do is he can control how much he inputs into himself, and then the rest he can use to either fire away or fire back. Firing back just requires a lot more aim. So after this, he wonders like, man, if I can learn how to control this and be able to like fully control it. So what he starts doing is he starts channeling it into one of his arms, and he's like, whoa, this is so cool. And then he tries channeling into his legs, and he's like, whoa, why am my legs are feeling so much faster now? And he tries punching, and his arms way faster than he was expecting. And then he's like, whoa, that's so cool. And he like covers his entire body in this like lightning cloak. And whenever Melissa and Deku, they're sparring like with under the like vision, like I don't know how to put that under of Amelia, and Melissa goes to punch Izuku, and her hand like stops, like, and it's just like, wait, what? And Izuku just dodges out of the way, like thinking that was about to hit him, but Melissa felt contact, but it didn't touch him. It's kind of like in Infinity, except less OP, because attacks can still get through, they just have to be non-physical. So like if it's ranged, or if it's like a quirk attack, it can, like Bakugo's explosions would go through like easily. It's pretty much only if he's fighting somebody who's quirkless that like doesn't input anything. Like Muscular would be able to punch through it with his quirk amplification. And Melissa's just like, and she's just like, man, no matter what I do, he always just overpowers me. And this is just like shocking to Izuku. So what he starts doing is he starts acting like he's getting hit, even if he's not. And he just starts letting Melissa win, because it's like he's trying to let her build confidence, so that way she doesn't like start hating herself and feeling like she's not ever going to be able to amount to anything. And this is just, and Melissa's like, she's gaining that confidence, and she's like, man, I don't need a quirk whenever I can do this. And she's developing armor for herself, and like the arm guards, leg guards, and just like things that would keep her from like keep her mobile, but still be able to keep her being able to dodge, but like also giving her durability. And she actually ends up deciding on a flexible carbon fiber, and then she ends up deciding this would be really cool if it came out of her skin, like nanotech. So she starts developing nanotech with David on the side as well. And Deku, while he's doing this, he's wondering if he can learn to control his lightning to the point where he can harden it to make it even more durable. And he's trying it on his legs first, because he's like, okay, if this doesn't work, my legs will get fried and I can still use my arms. And he ends up trying, and he eventually gets it. And it's actually like he ends up making like lightning boots, but like they go all the way up to like a little bit above his knees. And he's just like, whoa, this is so cool. So after this, and he realizes, whoa, these make me even faster. I feel like he can jump higher as well. And then he tries and does it with his arms, but he can't fully grasp it yet. And after this, the final 3 years of them training goes by, and this is where Izuku is at with this. His maximum voltage storage is 100,000 volts. His maximum output is 10,000. And the reason why I'm saying this is because 11,000 is the most voltage a normal person can take without instantly killing them. It's actually 2,700, but I'm just being charitable because the people in MHA are just gonna be broken anyways, or have quirks and durability, and it's just But he can output up to 110,000, and where the 10,000 comes from his volt storage is actually his own body. So he would, after the 10,000, he has 10,000 volts stored in his body at all times, not including his volt storage. But that 10,000 volts, it recharges over time, whereas the 100,000 he has to actually charge it up, and from something. But him using that 10,000 can actually fry him, so he tries not to, and he typically tries to always have a good 30,000 volts stored at all times, just so that way he can at least fire off 3 powerful shots. And finally, it's time for Amelia to leave, and she has to speak with Melissa alone. And she explains her reasoning for giving her the cold shoulder in the beginning, but she's so proud of her and everything that she's become. And Melissa accepts her apology, and they end up having a pretty good relationship. And after this, Amelia leaves. She goes back to Japan, and what else do I say after that about that whole situation? So after this, they're 14 now, and Deku's just alright, I need to focus on hand-to-hand combat, and he's but I kind of want to learn how to use a katana, and so that's what he does. He actually builds his own katana with silver, rubber, and gold. Because silver and gold are super good at conducting electricity, and rubber, if he ever needed to fight somebody without hurting them, he has rubber on the tip of it, so that way it wouldn't cut people, but it's made out of rubber and gold everywhere else, so that way it would still conduct the electricity. And the rubber is just basically keeping it from hurting, but it's such a thin layer that it doesn't matter. We're just gonna say that makes sense, even if it doesn't. And then in his journey of trying to make the perfect katana, he actually finds out copper is really good at conducting electricity. So what he does is he learns how to make Aizawa's scarf pretty much, but out of copper, and it's not a scarf. He just has it really compact, so he can actually channel electricity through it and soften it, kind of like Aizawa's scarf, and he can wrap it around someone and harden it, releasing the electricity, and use it to detain people. And copper is not a weak material. Of course you can break it fairly easily, but after this, it's actually revealed to Izuku and Melissa about UA, and they're yeah, we've always wanted to be a hero. This is something that Izuku and Melissa have trained for basically their entire lives, and they wouldn't give it up for anything. So David actually talks to them about moving to Japan, and so David, what he does is he moves his headquarters to Japan, and he moves Izuku and Melissa, and they end up living with Amelia and David. And David and Amelia, Amelia works for UA. She works as a 1B teacher, and David actually gets an offer to come in and work for the support course to help them out, because they're going to have a bunch of people. And David, of course, agrees because it's extra money going into the bank, And he actually asks Nezu if his kids could take the recommendation exam. And Nezu, of course, says, of course, you're a teacher, we value your opinion. So he's alright, cool. So, Izuku and Melissa, they take the recommendation exam, and the first one is of course a race. And I forgot to mention, while Izuku was training in that last year, he actually found out that he can sense voltage in people, and he can sense voltage in the air. So what he can do is he can control that voltage around his body and control the voltage somewhere else and be able to like teleport and swap places with voltage. And this is gonna come in super handy. It's cool. So what he does is he ends up doing that and he wins first place in the race. And Melissa, we're gonna say she gets fourth place because she uses her parkour and just mollywops everyone. And then we're gonna say they have a robot portion, and so the robot portion goes like this. They have to fight an individual 1-pointer, 2-pointer, and a 3-pointer. And optionally a 0-pointer to make themselves like look good. So Izuku, he expels all of his energy except for 10,000 of course. And he goes up against the 1-pointer, stealing all of the electricity. And he's like, only 10,000? Then he goes against the 2-pointer and he's like, only 20,000? And then he goes against the 3-pointer and 30,000. So he gets 6,000 voltage. Or 60,000 voltage. And then he's like, okay, can I just like a 0-pointer? And they're all like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, you're here on the recommendation exam, like, we value your opinion. So what he does is he takes all 60,000 volts and he fires it at the 0-pointer, and it fries its systems, making it to where they can't stop it anymore. So it's just starting to go rampant, and Deku's just like, I wonder how many volts are in that, because he has none left over. And he's just like, all right, and he's just like, oh crap, this is 110,000 volts. And he takes 20,000 volts and he fires it off in the air after taking some, and then he steals all the rest from the 0-pointer, powering it off immediately. And then he's just like, oh, this is a lot of voltage. And he's just like, hey, Cementos. And he calls Cementos over and he's like, can you cover me in like 10 layers of cement? And Cementos is like, kid, that's unsafe, like I can't. And he's just like, please just do it. And Cementos covers him in 10 layers of cement, and Izuku's just like, ah! And that's all people hear. And like the cement on the outside even begins to crack. And Cementos is like, wait, what? And Deku is just like, alright, you can let me out now. And Cementos drops his concrete, and he realizes there was barely even half a centimeter left of concrete left on the inside of the sphere. And he's just like, wait, what? And he's just like, thank you, that was way too much electricity for me to be able to handle. And Cementos is like, of course, kid. And he's just like, anyways, where did those 20,000 volts go that I put off? And he sees it and he's just like, oh, and he takes it back, and everyone's just like, wait, what did he just do? And everyone's just like, okay, anyways, maybe he won't do so good on the written portion. Yeah, that's not the case. Look at who their father is. So Melissa, what I would say she would do is she would have made herself a bow staff, and she would have implemented it into a capoeira, and she would have ended up beating up to a 2-pointer. But she wouldn't quite. Actually, yeah, she would have beat a 3-pointer as well, but with like relative difficulty. So after this, they take a written portion, and Deku, what he does is he like stands up and he immediately walks down, and so does Melissa, and everybody's like, wait, what? And they're just like, hey, I think you gave us the wrong test. Like, this thing has so many errors on it that we can't even take this test properly. And Mikey's just like, wait, you noticed that? And everybody's like, wait, what? And they're like, oh, my bad. And everyone's just like, maybe they're just tripping. And Mike is like, yeah, there are no errors. And he winks at them, and he's just like, you two, go outside. And they go outside, and they talk to Nezu, and he's just like, you found my trick. Good job. And they're just like, yeah, so what now? And he's just like, oh, don't worry, you two pass. And they're just like, wait, you're telling us now? And he's like, yeah. I mean, if you guys want to know what classes you're in, Izuku, you're going to be in class 1A. And Melissa, you're going to be in class 1B. And they're both just like, whoa, that's so cool. They both made it into UA. And they both high-five each other, and it's just a cute scene of brother and sister. They go home and they tell their parents, and they're so proud of them, and they end up having a massive feast that night. And after this, we get it's a 3-week break, and Deku is just continuing training, like he's trying to master his teleportation ability so that he can do it multiple times consecutively rather than just once or twice. Because he has to be able to not only, like, right now he has to be able to see where he can teleport to when he wants to learn how to, like, be able to sense the electricity rather than just seeing. And if you guys know where I'm kind of drawing inspiration from with that, if you guys have seen Luck from Black Clover and then Enel from One Piece, Enel's lightning teleportation and then Luck's like mana sense, that's what I feel like would be really cool to have. And after this, the week or two goes by and they start classes, and Izuku goes to 1A and he's like, oh, this is gonna be so cool, and everybody's looking at him and they're looking at him so weirdly. Because let me describe his appearance for y'all really quick. This man, he has brown hair, like he has like a fade on the sides. He has a fade on the sides and the back, and the top of his hair is brown and it has blonde tips, and it's like, and he just looks like amazing. He has blue eyes, he has a black t-shirt on. Because we're gonna say there are no like uniforms in this one, just because it's just like, I don't know. Because I go to a school that requires uniforms, not fun, but. And he also has an ear hoop, like a small ear hoop. He has he has the like miniature ear hoop, and then he has 3 consecutive ear like studs going up his ear. And then at the very top, he has a little chain going across his ear, and everybody's like, whoa, like he's so cool. And then they look at his arms, and he's like, he also has scars on his arms, because we're gonna say like he got like crazy scars from his mother, like training him, like not even on malicious type stuff. Like she would always like go and check on him and make sure he was okay, and he would always push through it. But he has scars on his arms, like fat scars, like electricity scars. Like they are in the shape of a lightning bolt, pretty much, on his arms and on his just like on his arms. And that's that. And he gets to 1A, and everybody's looking at him, and even this girl, she comes up to him and she looks like oddly familiar. And her name, and she has 2 little horns, she's blonde-headed, and she's like, hey, you're from America, aren't you? And he's just like, yeah, I am. And she has this like sweet country accent, and I'm not going to be able to do that. Regardless of where I'm from, I'm not going to be able to do that. But she's just talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm from America. You look like super familiar. And she's just like, yeah, I'm from America too. We grew up on the island together. You probably don't remember me because I was way too shy to be able to talk to you. And he's like, oh, I remember you now. Because we get a little bit of a flashback, and they were actually playing together as kids with Melissa. And she's like, oh. And Pony just goes on to say, and she's like, oh, my name's Pony, by the way, and you're Izuku, right? And he's just like, yeah, I'm surprised you remember my name. And she's like, yeah, I mean, you were always the cool kid growing up. And he's like, what? No. He was like, that was always Melissa. And she's just like, yeah, but while she was cool as well, you were popular and you were kind to everyone, and you also had the coolest quirk. And she's just like, me, I had a mutation type, so I was kind of shunned, but you and Melissa didn't care. You guys still like played with me anyway, so thank you. And he's just like, yeah, of course, I wouldn't do anything to discriminate against someone. And all of a sudden she gets like a small blush, and she's just like, thank you again. And she walks off, and she's like, I hope to see you again. And he's like, yeah, you too. And he's like, wait, what class are you in? And she's like, oh, I'm in 1B. And he's like, oh, that's where my sister is. Maybe you can go talk to her. Maybe she'll recognize you as well. And so that's what she does. She goes to 1B, and we get to Melissa's perspective, and she's like, and they're both looking at each other, and all of a sudden Melissa's eyes go wide, and she's like, Pony, is that you? And she's just like, yeah, you remembered. And Melissa's like, yeah, of course I did. Like, you were really cool growing up. Like, you had a really cool quirk, and I was always like a little bit jealous of that, so I always kept an eye on you, and that's why I wanted to be friends. And Pony's like, wait, you were jealous of me because of my quirk? And she's like, yeah, I'm quirkless, so it's kind of a given. And Pony's just like, wait, you're quirkless? But you're so powerful. You always beat Izuku in those sparring matches that y'all had. And she's like, yeah, don't tell him I know this, but I know who you always held back so I could win and build confidence. And she's like, wait, really? Is that why? And Melissa's just like, yeah, don't tell him I told you though, because I want him to think that he actually did something good. And they both just laugh together. And actually no. And Melissa says, well, you ready for this orientation? And Pony's like, yeah, of course. And class 1B, they all go to orientation after introducing themselves, and then cut to 1A. Izuku walks in the class and he's like, whoa, there's so many different people here with so many different quirks. I can feel all of their static electricity. And he looks over to the podium and he's like, what's that man laying down there? And he's like, wait, I feel another electric type user, like an electric type like quirk. And he's just like, I'm gonna go ask that person and see if he knows. So he goes up to Aizawa and he's like, hey, and he's just like, are you sleeping? And Aizawa's just like, go away, kid. I'm not getting up yet. And he's just like, okay, sir, my bad. And he gets up and he walks off and he's like, where's this lightning quirk kid? And he sees Kaminari and it's like they both look at each other. And Deku just walks up and he's like, yo, what's good? And they both dap each other up. It's the crispiest clap ever. Because not only was it just a perfect dap, it had electricity and thunder behind it. It was like, boom! It shook the entire school. And they both look at each other and they're just like, you're my boy now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're my boy now. So they're both just amazed at this, and they just start talking, and Aizawa's just like, all right, kids, come get these on and meet me outside. And he puts like a stack of gym clothes on the desk, and everybody goes and gets them on and meets him outside. He throws the ball towards Bakugo, and Bakugo's like, this is gonna be easy. He takes the ball and he's like, die! Throwing the ball as far as he can with his quirk. And he gets a respective 702 meters. And then everyone's like, whoa, that's gonna be so much fun. And Aizawa was just like, oh, you think it's gonna be fun? The person in last place gets expelled. And everybody's just like, wait, what? And Izuku's like, I'm not getting last place, so I'm not too worried about it. So he's just like, hey, Mr. Aizawa, could I go next? And he's like, whatever, kid. And he tosses Izuku the ball and he's just like, okay. So he activates the lightning boots and he activates his lightning gauntlets and he sprints around the circle as fast as he can. And it's almost as if he's creating like a mini tornado, except he's not. And then he charges the ball up with electricity and he's just like, ooh. And he throws it and there's a massive thunderclap, like boom. He broke the sound barrier 3 times and the ball goes a respective like 1021 meters. And everybody's shocked and he just like laughs and rubs the back of his neck and he's just like, whoops, I didn't mean to go that hard. And everybody's like, wait, what? And he just starts clearing the rest with ease. Like, there's no chance he's losing the 20-meter dash. Push-ups, yeah, no, because he has just a crazy amount. Grip strength, all he would really have to do would be activate his gauntlet and squeeze as hard as he can. And after this, he gets first place. Nobody gets expelled. And they just all return back to class. And they have a normal week. It's almost too normal. And a day goes by. And it feels like it's way too normal of a day. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed What If Deku was Born in America. I hope you guys enjoy this. I know I'm going to, because I love lightning quirks, and I love the fact that like Melissa and Izuku are siblings, especially being David Shields' like son and daughter, so they're gonna be smart as heck. But again, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for the support on every other video. Like, I cannot express that enough. Like, it means the world to me that you guys like my voice and you guys like my content. So thank you all, and without further ado, have a wonderful day.